The morning the glass tower reflected a gray sky. Grace Walker felt the weight of the world press against her shoulders as she pushed her cleaning cart through the silent lobby, her 8-year-old daughter Hannah walking beside her with careful steps that tried not to echo. Grace had learned to move quietly in places that did not belong to her, and on that day, exhaustion clung to her like a second uniform. She was a humble cleaner in a towering corporate building in downtown Chicago, a woman who scrubbed floors before sunrise and prayed that her child would someday rise above them. That morning, a simple decision to bring her daughter to work would set in motion a chain of events neither of them could have imagined. Before the story unfolds further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of compassion to change lives, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us of our humanity. Grace's life had narrowed into a daily routine shaped by survival. She lived in a small apartment on the south side of the city, where the heat sometimes failed and the walls whispered the memories of better days. Hannah's school had called the night before to say classes were canceled due to a sudden maintenance issue, and Grace had no family nearby, no savings for childcare, and no choice but to bring her daughter along. She dressed Hannah in her cleanest sweater, brushed her hair into neat braids, and promised herself that no matter what, her child would feel safe and loved. As they entered the building, Grace felt the familiar anxiety of being seen, of being judged, of being one mistake away from losing the job that kept the lights on. Hannah watched her mother work with quiet admiration, sitting on a bench near the elevators with a worn library book balanced on her knees. She had learned early to be patient, to occupy herself without asking for much. Grace glanced at her often, guilt tightening her chest as she scrubbed marble floors and wiped fingerprints from glass walls. The building was waking up now, executives arriving in tailored suits, heels clicking with purpose, eyes forward, rarely noticing the woman who kept their world clean. Grace had become invisible, and on most days that invisibility felt like both a shield and a wound. On the top floor of the building worked Thomas Reed, a self-made millionaire whose name carried weight in boardrooms across the country. He was known for sharp decisions, relentless focus, and a success story that business magazines loved to repeat. Few knew that Thomas had grown up poor in a small Ohio town, raised by a single mother who cleaned offices at night and taught him the value of dignity through hard work. That morning, Thomas arrived earlier than usual, burdened by a restless feeling he could not quite place, as if something unseen was asking for his attention. As Grace moved to the executive floor, her nerves tightened. She rarely cleaned there during business hours, but a spill from the previous night had gone unnoticed. Hannah followed quietly, eyes wide as she took in the sweeping views of the city from the floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, the world looked bigger, brighter, full of possibility. Grace felt a flicker of hope and quickly pushed it down, reminding herself that hope without means could be dangerous. It was there, in that quiet hallway, that Thomas noticed them. Not at first as individuals, but as a disruption to the rhythm he knew so well. He saw a small girl sitting cross-legged with a book, her shoes scuffed, her posture careful, and beside her, a woman working with focused determination. Something tugged at him, a memory rising uninvited, of sitting in a corner with homework while his own mother polished desks late into the night. He slowed his pace, the noise of the city fading behind the glass. Grace sensed his presence before she saw him, her back straightening instinctively. She expected annoyance, perhaps a reprimand for bringing a child into the workspace. Instead, she felt a silence settle, heavy but not unkind. Thomas observed without interruption, noticing how Grace positioned herself so she could always see Hannah, how Hannah looked up with quiet trust whenever her mother glanced her way. It was a simple scene, yet it carried a truth that pierced through years of polished success. The day continued, but something had shifted. Thomas returned to his office unable to focus, his thoughts circling back to the cleaner and her daughter. He began to ask questions, learning Grace's name, her years of service, her spotless record, her reliability. He discovered that she worked 2 jobs, that she had once dreamed of becoming a nurse, that life had narrowed her path after her husband passed away suddenly. Each detail deepened the ache he felt, a recognition of how easily life could turn and how rarely those at the top looked down long enough to see. Grace, unaware of the storm she had stirred, finished her shift with aching arms and a heavy heart. She worried about whether she had crossed an invisible line by bringing Hannah, whether kindness was a luxury she could not afford. When a supervisor asked her to wait before leaving, fear tightened her throat. Hannah sensed it too, standing close, small fingers brushing her mother's hand. What happened next would echo through their lives like a bell rung clear and strong. Thomas made a decision that was not driven by strategy or profit, but by memory and compassion. He arranged for Grace to receive a scholarship through the company's foundation to complete her nursing degree, along with a living stipend that would allow her to focus on school. He ensured Hannah would have access to a quality educational program and after-school care. He did not frame it as charity, but as an investment in potential, in resilience, in the quiet strength he recognized, because it had once been his own. The days that followed felt unreal to Grace, as if she were walking through someone else's life. She continued cleaning for a time, but now with the knowledge that there was an end in sight, a door opening where there had only been walls. Hannah began to smile more freely, her laughter returning as stability replaced uncertainty. The apartment that once felt like a trap became a temporary shelter on the way to something better. Years passed, and the transformation was not instant, nor was it easy. Grace studied late into the night, balancing textbooks with motherhood, exhaustion with determination. There were moments of doubt, moments when the weight of expectation felt unbearable. But there was also a steady hand of support, a reminder that someone had seen her worth when she had almost forgotten it herself. When Grace finally walked across a stage to receive her nursing degree, Hannah watched from the audience, pride shining in her eyes. Thomas attended quietly, sitting in the back, understanding that some of the most meaningful victories were not meant for applause. Grace's life did not become perfect, but it became possible, rich with dignity and choice. If this story has touched your heart, if it has reminded you of the power one act of kindness can have, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with others, and let us know your thoughts. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and reaching those who need them most. Before we end, we have a special request for you. Please comment the words "kindness changes lives" below if you believe that compassion still matters in this world. Grace never forgot the day she brought her daughter to work, nor did she forget the man who chose to see her not as a cleaner, but as a person with a future. And Hannah grew up knowing that even in the quietest corners of struggle, a single gesture, rooted in empathy, can change everything.